Hi, hello.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Um,
Are we going to wait for a few more minutes?
yes, yes.
Okay,
What I'll do is I'll just before we start this webinar, I will do a small introduction, welcoming all the participants and just the topic introduction. And I will prompt you that you can take over and then you can start with the presentation.
sure, sure. Do you have any? Do you want to share any slides, or we just keep it
No,
as
no,
is? Okay,
no, no, no. This is good enough.
okay.
I think we shall start. Hello, welcome everybody to Code Without Barriers Hackathon 2025 technical session. The topic for today's technical session is Azure AI Search. Over to you, Ning.
Right. Thank you, Sarah, and welcome everyone to this technical session. In this session, we're going to talk about Azure AI Search. Um, Now, let me just do a quick intro of myself. So I work for Microsoft as a Microsoft technical trainer. And also prior to this role, I was working as a cloud solution architect. So basically, I work across various domains of Microsoft's cloud and AI technologies. Have been in the industry for quite a number of years, and yeah, so it has been a very exciting journey for me. So today we're going to discuss Azure AI Search. So I will give a overview about Azure AI Search, and then what are the benefits? What is the positioning in the, for example, the AI application landscape. And we'll also talk about some of the key terminologies, concepts that is necessary to work with Azure AI Search. And then, of course, I'm going to do a quick demo as well, so you'll get first an understanding of how the Azure AI Search works, right? Hopefully, that will be useful in your um, I understand you're going to work on the hackathon, and then these, if you're going to work on the AI-based applications, and then most likely, right, this will be one of the key components in your overall solution architecture. Yeah, so hopefully this will be useful in your hackathon work. And if you have any questions during the introduction, please feel free to post it in the chat. So I'm monitoring the chat closely, all right? So yeah, I will address as many questions as possible. Okay. So yeah, as you can see on this slide, the future of AI is here. Every company, every organization is exploring how to leverage, how to make use of the AI technologies, especially the latest development in the generative AI technology to improve their operations, improve their productivity, innovation, and stay ahead of the competition. And a lot of these companies are developing their own AI applications. So those AI applications are for supporting various kind of business processes, right? So they can be for processing internal documents, to responding to customer calls, or even to automate some of those critical business processes. Now, most of these AI applications, especially those Gen AI applications, use one of the modern AI application pattern, which is so-called the retriever augmented generation, in short, REG or RAG. So in this sort of application approach, we see a few key components. So obviously you will have the applications, and in the Gen AI application, we always need to have a large language model, right? Now there is also orchestrator which sits at the center, which basically receives the user requests from either from those application user interfaces. And then, but before the orchestrator sends the request towards the large language model, it needs to talk to a key component in this picture, which is the retriever system. Why we need to have the retriever system? So as you know, the large language model's capability is actually constrained to the knowledge that is part of the base model, right? So the base model is trained based on the publicly available information on the internet. There are billions of trillions of articles. Those AI companies have a script over the internet to train their large language model. But however, the large language model does not contain those private data those organizations need to use in order to generate responses that are relevant to their business cases, right? So for example, you might have a sales record stored in the Oracle databases. You might have a lot of internal documents stored on their own file systems, maybe SharePoints. These documents, these data are certainly not part of the base model of any large language model you're going to use in your Gen AI application. So it's critical that you need to have a retriever system which will be able to connect to your internal systems, be the databases, be the file system, be the any business applications, to retrieve those your proprietary or internal data, so that these data can be passed on to the large language model as a grounding data, right? So in that kind of fashion, then the large language model will be able to generate the relevant and the accurate responses for the business cases you are developing in your Gen AI application. So this is the most common application pattern in the modern Gen AI, most of the Gen AI applications. Now, so this retriever system plays a critical role in this architecture because the quality, the relevance of the response from the large language model will depend on the quality of the data the retriever system retrieves from your internal systems. Now, so in this kind of system, one of the technology that is used very, very frequently is the vector databases, right? So so it supports the vector-based search, vector-based retriever. Why we want to use vector-based retriever? Because many of these Gen AI-based applications deal with the human natural language, right? So you can't really retrieve documents or information based on keywords. Now, so if you look at this example, if I'm going to look for you're shopping, right? You're shopping for some trainings or some lessons that teach how to do perform underwater activities, right? So for example, if you send these requests towards any Gen AI applications, can they perform a keyword-based retriever? If I'm going to search for documents based on underwater, based on lesson, based on activities, yeah, so you will get some documents. But however, will they be able to match these, scuba classes, snorkeling trainings? They don't contain the keywords, any of the keywords, right, in my request. So the keyword-based retriever will not work very well. So in this case, we'll use vector-based search. So vector-based search basically take into the context, take into the semantics, right? So it understands that in this kind of context, scuba classes and snorkeling trainings are both relevant to underwater activities. So they are classified as one kind of underwater activities. So if I'm going to use a vector, which basically is going to tokenize the entire string rather than a few keywords. So when we do the tokenization for the entire text, entire sentence, all those contexts will be taken into consideration. So that if you're asking for underwater activities, or those scuba snorkeling, will match your requests to a certain degree, right? So we can rank these matching similarities. We use the term similarity to determine how close those scuba classes or snorkeling sessions are to your request, which is underwater activities. And based on that ranking, based on that similarity, then we can determine whether scuba classes make more sense for my request or not, right? So this is one of the very commonly used retriever technology or techniques in the world of AI, especially the Gen AI based applications. Okay, so obviously, so in this kind of system, then the retriever system need to be able to support a vector database, need to be able to support vector-based retriever or search. Now, of course, not all the applications, not all the Gen AI applications require such application. There will still be some scenarios where you need to search based on certain keywords. So for example, if I want to look for transactions for a particular customer, if I know the customer ID or customer name, so I can use the exact match to find all the transactions that are related to this particular customer, right? So those sort of capability will still be useful on top of the vector-based search. And sometimes we want to combine both search into a hybrid search, so it will be able to improve the accuracy of the search results. And if you want to have a more accurate, more relevant search, then we also can do a re-ranking. So re-ranking will rank again based on the search results. So if you have retrieve 1,000 documents which are relevant to what the customer is asking, and for that 1,000 records, I'm going to take the top 100, for example, to do a re-ranking based on the additional criteria, additional conditions. So that is the situation where you want to have a very precise search results, right? So if you want to support a comprehensive AI, Gen AI applications, and your retrieval system need to support all these capabilities. Yeah. So here comes Azure AI Search, right? So Azure AI Search provides exactly those comprehensive search strategies, search capabilities to be able to support the various kinds of modern Gen AI-based applications. It provides many search, features. We're going to take a look at the later slides. And it also provides seamless integration with various data systems. As you know, the search needs to perform against data, right? So your data can be stored on the storage, can be stored on the databases, or maybe some other SaaS applications. So Azure AI Search provides a seamless integration towards those systems now, especially if your Gen AI application runs on top of Azure infrastructure. So it has, out-of-the-box integration with a few key storage solutions running on top of Azure. But of course, if you are using external data or storage systems, we provide a simple, integration, so that will be able to bring those data into the search as well. One of the important thing, right, for organization, for enterprise is that you need to be able to have high performance search results. You need to be able to have high standard in terms of the security and the privacy controls. So Azure AI Search follows the common security and the privacy best practices that we have across the entire Azure ecosystem. So that provides the enterprise-ready platform to be able to support all the business critical Gen AI applications. Now, so what you are looking at right now is our Azure AI stack, right? So which basically comprises of a few key components if you're going to develop AI applications using Microsoft technology. As you can see, we have a large language model, which is provided by Azure OpenAI services. So as you know, we use OpenAI's large language model, which then is bundled and packaged and provided over Azure platform. And we have Azure AI Agent Service, which provides, a SaaS-based agent capability, so that you can use it to build your agentic system very, very quickly. We also have Azure AI Content Safety, and that is to basically ensure your requests and your results in the Gen AI applications will follow the common security and the best practices, right, to ensure the content is safe, right? So we have these kinds of services. Now, as you can see, one of the key component over here is the Azure AI Search. Azure AI Search provides the capability to ground your requests with the data that belong to your organization's internal systems, so that the entire AI application will be able to generate responses that is relevant, that is accurate based on the user's requests and for your business processes. Yeah, so it's a very important critical component in the entire Azure AI stack. Now, so the key capability of Azure AI Search, first of all, of course, it is able to provide quality search results, right? So that is the fundamental capability of Azure AI Search. It's able to support, the different sort of a search strategy, as I mentioned earlier, keyword-based search, vector-based search, hybrid search, and also re-ranking on top of the search results as well, right? And of course, all these capabilities are also provided with different flavors as well in order to cater for different different requirements on the search results. Azure AI Search makes it very, very easy to integrate with the various data sources. As I mentioned, it has out-of-the-box integration with the data sources that are running on the top of Azure platforms. And then, of course, if you want to integrate with other AI data sources, and then we provide the APIs, we provide out-of-the-box indexers, which makes quite easy to integrate with any data systems that you want to bring in those data into the Azure AI Search. It builds on top of the common Azure infrastructure, Azure platform, and some of the security and compliance best practices are also part of the Azure AI Search. For example, we have comprehensive network control, we have comprehensive encryption control. We also have, of course, the user access and identity management, and we follow the common industry and compliance standards, right? So all these are part of the integral ingredients of Azure AI Search to make sure you have enterprise-ready platform for those business-critical AI applications. Yeah. So Azure AI Search has been used in many use cases. So those use cases are across all industries. All right. So for example, you can use Azure AI Search as one of the key components to build those AI-based bots, for example, right? So those bots will be able to will be able to carry out conversation with your customers, and based on this, and then it can provide intelligent responses, right? By using the knowledge that AI Search supplies to your bot applications. It can be a part of general AI assistant applications where you can use the information that AI Search provides to provide better analytics and better responses to any kinds of service requests, right? It is widely used in those applications which requires intelligent processing of internal documents, right? So document processing is one of the key requirement in many different business processes. And then of course, in Gen AI based applications, if you want to generate content based on user requests, Azure AI Search also provides the key role to supply the relevant grounding data in order to generate those responses, right? So these are just some of the top use cases, and there are a lot of other real-world applications where Azure AI Search plays an important role. Now, the key capability of Azure AI Search, of course, is to be able to retrieve information robustly and accurately, right? So for that, we provide many different capabilities. For example, if you want to do keyword search, we have exact keyword-based search, and you can actually use BM25 to do the re-ranking in order to improve the keyword-based search accuracy. If you want to do a vector-based search, we have different configurations depending on the accuracy you want from the vector-based search. We can, of course, support different kind of vectors. So there are you can use a different large language model to generate the vectors, and from that vectors, then you can perform the search. So we are kind of agnostic, right? So you can use any kind of a large language model to generate those vectors and index your documents based on these vectors. We also support hybrid search, and then we will be able to combine the search results from keyword-based search, from vector-based search, and give you and perform the re-ranking and provide you the best results based on the two different kind of search approaches. We also support multilingual, so your search documents can your content, your search documents can be in different languages, and we support a multilingual based search. We also have some other features like geospatial search. We have autocompletes. We also have facets. So some of these I will show you. In my quick demo, what it means. Yeah. Now, so with all these comprehensive capability, is it going to be very, very difficult to configure Azure AI Search for my application? The answer is no, right? So we provide those easy to use GUI. For example, this is a wizard, right? So you can bring out the wizard. You want to add the data source, and it's very, very easy. And we provide this simple configuration, and you can just use a point and click, simple GUI to configure Azure AI, what sort of a search algorithm you want to use. So this is used in the if you want to add a data with the kind of embedding with kind of vector search, right? So you can simply use this wizard that will simplify the underlying configuration process so that you can actually get it up and get started to use Azure AI Search quickly. But of course, if you want to, so this is a GUI-based configuration, right? But if you want to automate it, if you want to use APIs, we also support APIs and SDKs, right? To cater for different sort of configuration needs. Yeah. Um, Azure AI Search is also very easy to embed it into a common general Gen AI bigger Gen AI deployments. So as I mentioned, we support out-of-the-box integration with some of the key data sources running on Azure platforms. That includes, for example, storage, table storage, Cosmos DBs, blob storages, right? Data lake, in the big data kind of scenario. SQL database, if you are using Azure SQL, so that makes it easier to use RDBMS. We also support OneLake, which is SaaS-based data analytic, data lake, right? But with SaaS-based data lake. All right, suppose. So these are the key data storage systems running on top of Azure and Microsoft ecosystem, and then Azure AI Search has out-of-the-box integration with them, right? You simply just use GUI to configure it very, very easily. It's also embedded with different pre-integrated with different large language models, right? Azure AI, Azure OpenAI services. Some of the Azure OpenAI API has a native integration with AI Search to be able to. Azure OpenAI will be able to connect to Azure AI Search by itself to pull in the grounding data, right? For example, right, without the need to involve another orchestration. So you can actually save a lot of effort for that type of applications. It is also closely integrated with Azure Machine Learning, and other Azure AI services. Now, so if you want to, typically in Gen AI applications, there will be one component which is quite critical, right? As I mentioned earlier, so that is orchestration. So because orchestration sits at the center of the entire application architecture, it deal with the user applications, it deal with the search, it deal with the large language model. So Azure AI Search is also integrated closely, seamlessly with different kind of orchestration. If you are using Microsoft technologies, we're talking about Azure AI Foundry, Copilot Studio. So these Azure AI Search can be readily used, right, in those Foundry and Copilot Studio. But if you are using open source tools such as LangChain, Semantic Kernel, Llama Index, right, and so the Azure AI Search are also tightly integrated into those open source tools as well. So it's very and if you want to make a call towards Azure AI Search. And so later I will show you some examples, right? You can use REST API, which is pretty easy to use. And but if you want to use SDKs, we provide SDKs in different languages as well, right? So it's really easy to integrate Azure AI Search into a wider AI application or ecosystem. Okay, so these are some of the concepts. And then lastly, of course, as I mentioned, you won't be able to use any tool into a serious, enterprise systems without those proper performance, securities, and the compliance controls. So Azure AI Search follows the same sort of security best practices that we have across all the services on Azure platforms. So for example, it supports encryptions, right? Encryption at rest, encryption in transit, whether you are using Microsoft keys or you using your own keys, it supports all these different kind of approaches. It supports a key-based authentication. It supports Entra ID-based role-based access control, right? Following the common practices of all the Azure AI services, all the Azure services. It has comprehensive network control as well. You can set up firewalls for obviously. You can also use endpoint solution to make sure all the traffic, inbound, outbound traffic related to Azure AI Search will remain, on Microsoft private network, for example, without the risk of exposing the traffic on the public domain, right? So we also support these kind of settings as well. Just like all the Azure services, Azure AI Search also being audited on regularly, by those independent auditor. So we publish those reports and we conform to those popular industry and international standards, right? You can even set up the policy to monitor the compliance based on those well-known regulatory requirements as well. Yeah, so that makes the Azure AI Search ready for those large-scale business-critical application deployment. Okay, so these are some of the high-level benefits and key capabilities. So what I will discuss in the next few minutes is some of the key concepts and terminologies, right? Now, first of all, let's look at the Azure AI Search architecture. So in the middle, as you can see, we have Azure AI Search, right? So Azure AI Search essentially comprises of two important engines. So one is the indexing engine. Okay, so what does it do is that it's going to take your content. So whether your content is some sort of data or some sort of documents stored in the different kind of data systems, right? You need to bring those data and into Azure AI Search, and Azure AI Search then will index them, right? So only after the indexing, your documents, your data will be available to queries. Yeah. So and then in that case, the query engine will be able to receive query requests coming from your own applications. All right. So how do you send the requests into the query engine? You use REST APIs, right? So I will show you some example later. Yeah, and then the query engine basically will query those indexed documents, right? So we call it documents. So all these documents, indexed documents, will be stored in Azure AI Search in their internal structure. The query engine basically will query those indexed documents, will return and the documents which are matching with your query request, right? So that's basically, on the high level, that's how the Azure AI Search works. Now, one of the important process in Azure AI Search is the indexing process or indexing pipeline. As you can see, so of course, without indexing, nothing is going to work, right? Nothing is going to happen in Azure AI Search. And so the critical step for you to set up Azure AI Search is to set up that pipeline to be able to bring your documents, your own documents, whether they are in database or in file system or any other business applications, right? You need to bring this data, bring these documents into Azure AI Search. So that process actually follows predefined pipelines. For example, first we need to do the document cracking. So document cracking is basically opening the documents, right? So if you have PDF files, if you have Word documents, we need to open these documents, right? To be able to retrieve the content. And then depending on the format of the documents, we have some predefined field mappings. So those are fields, right? The fields basically represents carries the information that you have in these documents. So those fields can be indicating some metadata, for example, your file name, your URL, your source, your author, your size, and so on and so forth. Some of the fields also carries the content, right? So content actually is one of the most important fields. But of course, you can use multiple fields to represent the content. So this whole process configuration is configurable, is controllable by your applications. And during the whole process, you can also introduce the concept called skill set. Right, the skill set basically is a bunch of capability you use to enrich your the indexing, right? So when we index, we will retrieve the content from the original documents, but sometimes that is not enough because we want to do some enrichment. So if your content, if your document contains some images, how do I process the image? How do I understand the meaning of the image? So in this kind of situation, you need to enrich, right? So for example, I can bring in some other AI services to do some image analysis, so which then will be able to generate some text which represents the image, right? So the entire indexing is based on text. So if you have any other content which is non-text, and you need to basically enrich it to convert it into a text-based information, right? So you can bring in some other capabilities. So there are a wide range of AI capability you can bring in order to enrich your source documents. So that you can have proper fields, right, to carry those meaningful information, then which then will be indexed, right? So after this skill set, after the enrichment, you can also perform a mapping, right? So the enrichment will generate a bunch of fields. So how these fields will be mapped to the final fields, which then will be available for indexing. So you can do this kind of mapping, so that provides you lots of flexibility. Now, finally, right, so all these mapped information then will be pushed into the index. And then, of course, then in the index engine is going to build up the internal data structure, internal, uh, document structure to represent those indexing information so that they will be able to query it, right, returned in a robust and high performing manner. Yeah. During this whole process, there are a few keywords, right? Index. Okay. This index basically is entity which represents all these documents which have been internally indexed and built up, right? When you use the Azure AI Search, you basically can create multiple indexes. Each indexes represents a set of documents that you want to query later. Okay. The index contains documents. Okay. It contains the documents. So documents basically is one a unit the document consists of a bunch of fields, right? So based on that indexing pipeline, we will extract the information from the documents, we'll map them into a list of fields, right? So as I mentioned earlier, the fields can carry different information as part of your documents. So when you configure that index, there's a structure of the index you need to configure. We call it a schema, right? So when you configure the index schema, you can define what are the different fields do you want to have to basically to be part of the documents, right? To represent the documents, and what are these whether some of the fields are key, some of the fields can be used as a search field, some of the keys can be used as a filtering, right? So you can define all these, the schemas, yeah. And then finally, we have an indexer. Indexer basically is a component which will be able to build up the index, right? Is consider this as a crawler. If on the search engine, right? So all these Google, maybe Bing search engine, they always have this crawler. The crawler will on periodic basis, right? It will go out to the internet to look for all the websites to be able to bring those documents, bring these website pages, documents, and then they will index it, right, to make it available in the search. So likewise, we are using the same kind of approach over here, right? So we provide this out-of-the-box capability for you to build an indexer. So this indexer will go to your data source that you have configured. It works as a crawler, right? It will basically go to your data source to pull out all the necessary data and then index it in your own indexes, right? So that's basically what it does. And you can use out-of-the-box indexer, but you don't have to be constrained by that. You can also build. We also provide APIs So you can build your own crawler, right? So you can build your own application which will retrieve your own documents and use the Azure AI Search APIs to ingest those documents, to push those documents into the index, right? So there are you can either use our out-of-box indexer, you can build basically your own indexer. It's up to you, right? It provides all these flexibilities. Okay, so after you have done the indexing, so your documents are available in Azure AI Search indexes, and then you will be able to query it, right? So how do I query it? Very simple. You just send the REST API. So here are just a couple of examples, right? If you want to do a text-based search, right, using keywords, using some text-based expression, and then you just send out a REST API. For example, this is a post API, and then you just provide a JSON documents which describes how you want to perform the search, right? So for example, this is the search I want to perform. I want to look for budget hotel, and those hotels there's a plus pool, which means that the hotel must have a pool. So I'm searching based on keywords, right? Hotel and a pool, right? So any search documents must contain these kind of keywords. So you can also make your search query a little bit more complex using Lucene search formats, right? So I will show you some example later. Now, so that's text-based search. You can also perform vector-based search. Okay, so while you are looking over here, like this one, okay. Let me just, yeah, so this one. So what's that? This is the vector, right? So when we talk about a vector, I don't know if anyone have been working on those Gen AI applications, right? The vectors or embeddings, right? So they are basically referring to the same thing. So this is a vector, as you can see. It's a list of numeric numbers, which basically will be used to represent the incoming text, right? So if you want to search for documents which are similar to a particular a sentence or paragraph, and then we can generate a vector to represent your sentence, your paragraph, and this vector then will be used to compare with the vector I have stored in my search index, and we're going to compare the similarity, right? The vector which is the most similar to the incoming vector, and then will be ranked higher, and then will be returned, right? So that's the theory behind the vector search. Okay, so there's a bit of a mathematical calculation to determine the similarity value. Okay, so that's basically the theory. So these are some of the key terminologies which you need to understand when you work with Azure AI Search, right? So we are looking at some of these concepts on a high level, and then of course, if you want to know more, please feel free to look at our Microsoft documents. We have comprehensive documents, we have samples, and some API guides, right? So that can help you get started and also dive deeper as well. Any questions for anyone at this point? Yeah, feel free. If you have any questions, feel free to put into the chat. Now, what I want to do now is to show you a quick demo. So with all these terminologies, how do they look like, right, on our Azure AI Search service? So what I will do is that I'm going to bring you the Azure portal, right? So how many of you have seen the Azure portal? Yes, yeah, some of you have done that. So this is basically the Azure portal, and you can use this interface to access any kind of Azure services that we have on the Azure platform, Azure ecosystem. So what I'm looking at right now, so I've already created some search service, right? So what I'm looking at right now is the search service instance, in my environment. So this is called search -nw-c, right? So this is a search service, as you can see. Yeah. So below you can see there are some of the terms, right? So indexes, indexers, we have data sources, aliases, skills, right? Some of these terms that I mentioned that in the few slides I've discussed earlier. Yeah. All right, so basically what you need to do is that you need to register your data sources. And so these data sources will be basically we support, for example, you can add data sources. So what other data sources do we support? So we support, as I mentioned, blob storage, data lake storage, Cosmos DB, SQL database, and so on and so forth, right? So these are the most important data systems that we have on Azure platforms, all right? You simply need to register them. After you have registered your data source, and then we will be able to configure an indexer to be able to pull the data from these data sources and then ingest them into the index. Okay, so that's basically the first thing you need to do, and then of course then later. And then the next thing you need to build an index. Okay, so you can see I've got different kind of indexes, right? And you can create an index. You can define the fields, right? So when you create an index, you need to define the schema, right? For this index, for all the documents in this index, what are their attributes? What are their fields, right? You need to define that. But we provide an easy way for you to do all that in a single GUI wizard, right? So you can break it down into multiple steps, but we allow you to use a simple approach. For example, on the top, you can see over here we have import. Okay, you can import data, and vectorize data. So these are easy to use end-to-end wizard that guide you through the process of importing data and performing the indexing, right? At the end of this whole wizard, we will also create an indexer. And that indexer can run on periodic basis to refresh the documents from your data source, right? So let's run through an example, right? So if I want to import the data, for example, I just click the import data, and it will bring up this wizard, right? It will show me those registered data sources. Okay, so I have registered a couple of data sources, right? So this is the one. So what's this? So this is the blob storage, which contains a bunch of travel documents, right? Travel agency, which those documents basically contain some brochure, which introduce some of the travel destinations, right? So if I want to search, hey, I want to go for this particular holiday destination based on certain criteria, right? So I can provide the results based on these documents. So imagine if you are a travel agency which is supporting those queries from your customers, right? You want to return query results based on our internal destination documents, right? So those are the destinations that you are selling as part of your travel packages, for example. Okay, so I can just choose, right? So this is my data storage, which contains all these brochures and product descriptions. Okay, and the next step is that I know that my document actually is kind of those are PDFs. Some of PDFs contains different languages. Some of the PDFs might have some images, right? So I want to be able to return queries even based on those informations, right? Different languages, different images. I want to understand, hey, what this image is trying to tell us, right? Maybe this image is describing a beach, right? Nice looking beach. So if you want to search for travel destination with a beach, hotel, and then I will be able to return that information based on what the image describes. So how do we do that? So we're going to use skills, right? So what's this cognitive skills? This is basically the AI skills. So on Azure platforms, we have a lot of other AI capability. So we basically call them as a cognitive service. So cognitive service are basically referring to a collection of AI capability which are able to process the languages, process the images, right, and analyze some of the text. Okay, so now we can say, hey, I want to add some AI capability to analyze those documents in order to enrich the data. All right. So how do I do that? So I can simply click that, and then it will be able to give me a list of AI capability that I can include. Okay, so what it does is right now is go to the storage documents to pull in some PDFs, right, to do a bit of sampling to see what we can do, right? Okay, so you need to attach AI service because as part of this AI-based enrichment, we're going to call some other AI services to perform that enrichment, right? So you can choose. You can use the free version, which provides a limited enrichment capability. You can of course use your own Azure AI service. So this is I have some service, right? Maybe I'm going to choose my own. Okay, and then you can add enrichment. So what kind of enrichment can we do? Yeah. Right. So you will see, hey, I'm going to use the content. So by default, all your content, your documents will be basically uh, carried inside a field which is called content, right? This content might contain only text, might also contain images, right? If your content does contain image, so everything basically will be under content. So I'm going to use the content as the source because now after I've cracked open the documents, I'm going to pass the content to the next activity, which is the AI business enrichment, right? So I'm going to tell the next activity what is the name of the source, right? So the name is called content. So content basically is a field which brings in all these original content. Yeah. So I'm going to do, hey, you can use AI to detect the language, for example, right? You can use that to translate, to do translation if you have a multi-language in your documents. I can also use that uh, to extract some locations if I want. Okay. Um, yeah. Um, right? So you can extract key phrases, you can extract locations. So these are the various kind of AI capability you can use. Okay, so if I'm gonna say, hey, I'm going to automatically detect the location, right? Location, of course, is important, right? So I want to extract those important location names into a field so that I can perform some more intelligent search based on some filters, for example, right? So I can do these sort of things. So we are leveraging AI to do that. Maybe I want to detect language as well, so that if any query has some language preference, right? So I can also provide that information. Okay, so maybe I'll just include a few. I will include these two. If you want, you can also include others, right? And then, okay, so based on what I have chosen, and then it's going to present a schema. As you can see, these are the schema that the Azure AI Search automatically generates, right? And then you can add a new fields, you can customize it. So those fields, some of these fields can be retrievable, right? If you want to retrieve certain information, you need to mark this as retrievable. Otherwise, the information, the data in this particular field will not be able to return. Okay. If you want to perform filter based on that particular field, and you have to mark it as a filterable, right? Likewise, as a sortable, facetable, searchable, so you basically can define, right, how these fields can be used in your query. Okay. Yeah, so you can define this. So after which, and then you can go ahead to create an indexer. So the indexer will follow, whatever process you have defined earlier to run this whole process on a regular basis. You can configure how often do you want to run it. When if you only want to just run it once, you can configure in such a way, or you want to do it hourly, daily, and based on certain schedule, right? So you can do that. Um, Now, so after you have configured this whole thing, and then we're going to create an index. We're going to create an indexer. We're going to create this whole enrichment pipeline so that this indexer will run the pipeline based on the schedule you have configured, right? So this wizard basically automates the very complex, a lot of complex configuration objects. If you want to do this automation by your own in your own application, you can do that as well. So we provide APIs and SDKs. Okay. Yeah, so this basically shows you that the simple experience that you can use to set up this entire process of indexing. So which is very, very critical in order to make use of the search, right? So after you have set up this whole process, after the indexer has run successfully, and then you will have a bunch of documents in your index. Okay, so let's see what happens, right? After the indexer has run successfully, and then you basically have to go to index. Okay, so I've already set up the index like this one. Okay, so this is the index I set up earlier, which basically uses the same approach. Okay, I've already set up the indexer, which has run, and then it has indexed a few documents based on the travel documents. So what exactly do we have in our index? Okay, so you can actually do a search, a wildcard search, which will bring back all the documents we have. There you go. There you go. Okay, so this is actually what we have in our index. Okay, you can see I've got count. I have 9 documents, and we have the content. So this content contains the text in the documents. All right, and then there are a whole bunch of attributes based on the schema we have defined, and there are also some locations. Right, where do we get a location? We use AI to extract the locations from the original content. So we actually put those locations into some as some keywords in a particular attribute. So if someone wants to look for destination, right, these destination, and we can easily match them based on a keyword-based search, right? Yeah, so so these are so this is the internal representation of the indexed documents, right? So when you perform search, you basically search against these documents, and then all the documents will be returned in the JSON format, depending on what you want to retrieve. Okay, so let's look at some examples, right? So I want to perform search now. So what I have done just now is that I do not supply any search terms, right? Search attributes. It just bring me back all the documents. Now I want to actually perform some search. Okay, so you can actually use REST API, right? But you can try it out in this GUI. Okay, so we provide you this JSON view. It basically allows you to create a actual request, and we'll send this request over the REST API. So that allows you to do some experimentation and do some trial, right? So for example, I'm going to send over this request. Okay, so what does this request do? Okay, this query says that I'm going to count. I want the I want the response return me is a count, which basically show me how many documents that have matched with my query. Right. So query type is a simple query. This is the search term. As you can see, you have some wildcards, LON star. You should be able to match with London, for example. DOB star, you should be able to match. So this is a wildcard, right? So, and I also have a plus water park. Okay, so I want to search only return those documents not only contain either London or Dubai, but also contains a water park, this keyword. Okay, so I use a plus means and. Okay, so you can actually define this kind of search terms, which is quite similar to what we typically do in the web-based search, right? And I also can specify, hey, what attributes, what fields do I want? In my search documents, there are 20, 30 different fields, right? Not all the fields are useful, are relevant to my application. I only want to return these two fields, for example, storage name and content. That's it. Okay. So I'm going to do that. So when I click search, this GUI basically will send a REST API. The request, body will be in this format. All right. So this is my request. Let's do a search. There you go. It returns. Okay. So this is the result. Okay, it returns me exactly one document. So only one document that matches with my query, as there is a confidence score 9.47. In this case, the higher score is 10. So it's a pretty good match, right? And you can see that the file name, the original file name is called Dubai the brochure. And then we have all these contents text. Yeah, so this is one example. If I want to make it a little bit more complex, for example, I can use what about this one? So this one actually contains a few arguments. So for example, I've got a filter, right? So now I can perform filter. So which means that the search engine will first perform a filter. It will filter based on the expression I've defined over here, and in the filtered result, I will perform a search, right? So the search will be conducted based on a smaller sets of documents, which is returned using the filtering expression. So in the filtering expression, I'm saying that, hey, go to look for the key phrases. If any of the key phrases are, are one of these, right? Either restaurant or water park. Okay, and so you can use AI to analyze what are the key phrases in any documents, right? And then I can search based on these key phrases. So I want to look at the documents which contains either restaurant or water park, yeah? And then so it will perform the filter first for any documents that contains a restaurant and the water park, and then it will further perform the search to see whether they contain either London or Dubai, and then it defines the attributes it will return, It also provides a facet. So it asks me, so with the facet, it says that, hey, I want to actually do a pivot. I want to pivot the documents based on this particular attribute, right? Show me how many authors who has written that particular documents and how many documents you have for each author, right? So that provides another kind of aggregation. So this sometimes can be useful in your applications to simplify the GUI, right? It can provide some filtering mechanism on the GUI. So if I'm going to run this search, there you go. So I have, hey, the count is 3, and then this is the facet, right? So there are two author types, the reviewer and the travel agency. So the reviewer, provides the 2 documents, and this travel agency provides 1 documents, and then these are the returned documents based on the filtering, based on the search. Okay, so these are some examples, right? I can even write a more complex search expressions, if you follow the full Lucene search syntax, right? Okay, so these are text-based search. What about the vectors, right? So I talked about a vector, which is a very, very important capability for AI-based applications. So how do we do a vector-based search? I will just my last demo will show you quickly on the how do we do vector-based search, right? So in this search index, I've got some vectors. Now, so if I'm going to bring out all the documents I have, and you can see, yeah. So here you go. Okay, you can see that every document contains this attribute, which is called content vector. Okay, it's a very big vector which contains 1,592 numbers, right? So that is the vector we generated using OpenAI model, right? So which is the embedding model. We use the ADA 2 model. We use that to create embeddings, right? So this vector basically is an array of numeric numbers which are used to represent the content here. Okay, so this is a content which describes a particular Azure service. Yeah, so if you so later when I use a vector-based search, then I'm going to generate another vector for my input query, and that vector then will be used to compare with all the vectors that I have stored in these documents, and then the ones that with a better similarity will return high on the return list, right? So that's how we're going to perform the vector-based search. Now let's take a look, right? So what this index does is that it captures all these Azure services, and each one has a brief description what this service is all about. Yeah. So Azure CDN. So what does Azure CDN do, right? Azure CDN is a global content delivery network and blah blah blah. So it has a simple description for each Azure service. Now, what if I want to create a solution? I want to look for services which are relevant to what I want to do. Okay. So how do I perform that kind of search? So obviously keyword will not work because my solution might not necessarily use the keywords, like CDN or whatnot, right? So what I can do is that, for example, so I'm going to show you a quick example like this. Okay, so this is my query request. So what I want to do is I want to build an application, which is a secure web-based application with a NoSQL data store, okay, data backend, right? It does not contain, those service keywords, right? If you're going to use a keyword-based search, it will not return you the meaningful service, right? And also you don't know which keyword is most important. It's very hard to determine, by using the keyword-based search. Now, in this case, what I will do is that I'm going to use a vector-based query, right? In fact, I'm going to use a hybrid. So it will use this search. It will also use a vector, and it will combine to find out the best search results, right? So I will pass in also on top of all the search attributes. I will also add another search attribute, which is called a vector queries, right? So as you can see, I'm passing a vector. And this vector, again, is a very big array of numeric numbers. So this vector needs to be generated using the same model as the model we use during the indexing. So, so if we want to compare vector, you have to make sure the model is the same. You cannot compare the vector generated by one model with the vector generated by another model. They won't match, okay? So in any case, so I've already used the another API to generate the vector, so I can just put in the vector here. So this vector basically represents this paragraph. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to search. I'm going to click the search, and there you go. It returns me all the documents, and each document is being ranked based on the similarity. Well, actually, is the similarity plus the keyword-based search, right? Plus the text-based search. And then the result, as you can see, scroll down a little bit. Here you go. Right. So this is the first result. Yeah, so this is the first result, and then we have got search score 0.03, and it says that Azure Static Web App. Okay, Azure Static Web App is one of the services we use to build web-based application, right? So which is relevant because my request is to build a secure web application. And another service, Azure App Service. Okay, so that's also a popular service that we use for web-based application. All right, as you can see, next one, Azure Cosmos DB. Azure Cosmos DB is the key service we have on Azure platform to build a NoSQL database. And then it successfully returns the Cosmos DB because my request not only web application, but also want to have a NoSQL data store. Okay, so Azure Cosmos DB is returned. Right? So we also have Azure database for MySQL, database for Postgres. Some of these database also provides a NoSQL database. Yeah. I also have some other requests, to secure, right? I want to have to develop a secure web application. So as you can see, it also returns like Azure Application Gateway, front door, and so all these services are also commonly used in building web application. Provides a different sort of traffic management plus the security as well, right? So they also support, WAF, and you can also configure WAF on those services, right? So by and large, this return actually makes sense, right, for the query result I send over. Yeah. So that is the power of using a vector-based search. If you have a large body of text and which cannot have a clear keyword defined, right? And you can use those, vector-based search or hybrid search to enhance the accuracy of the search results. Okay, I think, yeah, so we're on top of the hour. So I have, show you some of the key capability of Azure AI Search, and, how do we build an index? How do we perform the query? Any questions? Yeah, hopefully they'll give you a good overview about Azure AI Search and how it can be used in your applications to enhance your AI-based application or any other application which requires such kind of retrieval capability. All right, any questions for anyone? Okay, if not, thank you everybody for joining this event. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.